I'm Michael Ledoux with CARFAX for Police, a division of CARFAX. We are a very proud partner of Coffee with a Cop and have been for going on a little over 2 years now. And I'm retired law enforcement. I was a police officer for 25 years in New Hampshire. I was privileged enough to meet the esteemed Chris Cognac right at the beginning of our awesome relationship, and Chief Mike Ishii as well, who I know is on today. So I can say on behalf of Bill Eager, the president of CARFAX, my general manager, Mike Irvin, and myself, Michael Ledoux, we're really happy to be here. And it's a wonderful partnership, and we're going to have a wonderful discussion today. So Chris, I'm going to turn it over to you to get it going.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I want to, I'll introduce myself again. If you don't know me, I'm Chris Cognac. I'm the co-founder of Coffee with a Cop, and I serve as the primary instructor. I'm retired 26 years with the Hawthorne Police Department, and I was a former fellow for the Office of Community Policing, which we will talk about the COPS office today, which brings me into introducing our guest. It is Deborah Spence. She is the Assistant Director for the Office of Community Policing in Washington, D.C. It's an amazing office that a lot of people don't know about still. They have great resources for police, just vast amount of expertise in a multitude of subjects, and they're a great resource. And so with Deborah Spence here, we want to talk about the COPS office, the programs they have, and then we'll talk about Coffee with a Cop and the state of policing. If you have questions, please just write them down and we'll get to them. So Deborah, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Chris. I'm excited to be here with you today.
And we are really excited to have you. Thank you so much. You want to start off just by telling us a little bit about the Office of Community Policing for the people who don't know?
I'd be delighted to. So the COPS office was founded in 1994. We are a component of the U.S. Department of Justice, and we are wholly dedicated to serving state, local, and tribal law enforcement agencies across the country. We primarily do that through 3 lines of business. Our grant funding that goes out to state, local, tribal, territorial law enforcement. We then also have training and technical assistance and other what I would call passive resources that people can access. The grant side is probably what we're best known for. Our COPS hiring program is the most famous of our grant programs, which in the 90s aimed to put 100,000 officers on the street. We have well exceeded that total over the course of our history. And that is still our biggest grant program every year. But we also have a wide variety of funding that we put out to departments, everything from anti-heth, anti-Marowan types of programs to school violence prevention programs, law enforcement, mental health and wellness programs that we support around the country, and a variety of other smaller innovation grant programs to help agencies try out new and different things to try and build better relationships with their communities. On the training and technical assistance side, one of the biggest things that we've done in recent years is launch an online training portal. And we called the COPS training portal, very original of us, but it offers free on-demand training, self-paced, for really officers around the world. And that we have over 30 courses in it now. And we're very excited about that. We have about 50,000 course completions just over the last couple of years. Probably the one good thing to come out of COVID has been that people are suddenly very interested in online training. And then on the resource side, we constantly are putting out free to law enforcement around the world resources, primarily publications. We release about 50 new publications a year and have what we think is one of the largest libraries of community policing resources available on our website. And but we also have branched out into other types of things, including we have a monthly e-newsletter that Chris, you and I are definitely going to talk about in a little bit. We also have our own podcast series called The Beat. It's available on Apple Podcasts. And we also do a little bit of some stuff on YouTube as well. We have a What's New in Blue series that we like to say is like a TED Talk. But I think that's really if you stretch the definition of what is like a TED Talk. But we do highlight some really interesting stories and innovations in policing and interesting people. And Chris knows it well because he appeared in our inaugural season a couple of years ago talking about Coffee with a Cop. So I think in a very quick summary, that's our office. I think for agencies on listening that are familiar with us, one tidbit that might be surprising is we're actually a very small component, less than 100 federal employees based in DC, but we really try to have a huge presence with our state and local partners around the country. So I was very excited when you invited me to come and be a part of the conversation today.
Well, thank you very much. We're excited. The What's New in Blue is a great program. And when I went and filmed that, I filmed in a day with 4 or 5 other people. And I was really impressed with the subject matter expertise of each individual. You brought in the experts, and it's a great way to, even like a lunch and learn type thing, to watch those What's New in Blue podcasts and learn from the experts who are actually doing it. And I think that's one of the great things that the Office of Community Policing does. Is it's accessible for other officers.
A sort of unofficial motto for us has been, sort of by the field, for the field. We really try to not be the black suited Washington expert who tells everybody how to do things, but to connect experts in the field to other people who might be facing similar challenges or want to learn from what their peers did across the country, and to try and make those connections for the law enforcement professional community to learn from each other, both the things that work and the things that don't work, so that people can reinvent good wheels and skip building the bad one over again. So yeah, the What's New in Blue has really been a key way that we do that and help share those stories across the profession.
See, that's been great. We'll go into grants real quick, and then we'll kind of end with how our process started. And I'll just point it out right here, the Coffee with a Cop program would not exist if it wasn't for Miss Deborah Spence. So we'll tell that story in a little while, but she is the reason that the Coffee with a Cop program exists. And it's all through Cop's Office grants. What can the regular beat officer, community affairs officer, things like that, how can they benefit from the Cop's Office to start a program? Maybe they're in a 20, 30 officer agency and they don't have resources to start community policing, or they don't have the expertise. Where can that officer go in the Office of Community Policing to get small grants, micro grants, resources, expertise?
So our main website is cops.usdoj.gov. And from there, you can really access all of our resources. I won't say it's the best organized website ever, but it is fairly clear as you click around. There's a big drop-down tab for grants, and we advertise all of our grant programs every spring. We make awards by the fall. I think for a lot of smaller and mid-sized agencies, what we call our microgrants program is probably the one most worth looking at. They are smaller scale awards for innovative projects. And we've been running that program for about 10 years, and it's been really popular. We've even had agencies apply multiple years because they have a second or third good idea that they want to put in for. And it's a kind of like a small business loan type idea for innovation. I think for any agency that is looking for assistance with hiring officers, even though that's a big program that thousands of agencies compete for, we've worked really hard to make that application not require you to go out and hire a grant writer who knows how to write a compelling 20-page proposal. It's more of a survey form, multiple choice, select all that apply, fill in some key numbers of things like how many officers do you have, how many people are in your jurisdiction, is it urban, rural, suburban, things like that, so that it makes our grant programs more accessible for departments who don't necessarily have access to the professional grant writers that can make a living helping people get money out of Washington. So thank you, Michael, for adding in a couple of our links. Also, when you're on our website, there's a whole tab devoted to resources, and in there is one of them will be our resource center, and that's the library of, I think we're somewhere around 800 publications in that library at this point. I'm not sure the exact percentage, maybe 50% of them are available in print, and you can submit an order and we send them out free of charge. That can be really great if there's something that a department wants for a training class and they want to order, a bulk delivery of something to make sure that everybody gets it. Or we also have some resources that are great for departments when they're meeting with the community. In fact, it just came up this year that our parents' gang cards, which we produce in about 5 languages, we had run out of English. And so the request came in to reprint, because even though they originally produced some 20 years ago, many departments still really like having this 1-page card that they can hand out at meetings with parents. And so we're going to be reprinting them again. And that's something that goes out the door in bulk all the time. And then for all of our pubs, whether they're in print or not, they're all downloadable as PDFs, and easy to share and spread around. And we don't charge for any of it. So we welcome everybody to dig through the library for ideas. You're thinking about doing a program on whatever issue, or maybe it's working with your youth. Maybe you want to put together, a new revamp your police athletic league, things like that. We'll have resources on examples of what other departments have done and promising practices and lessons learned and things like that in that library. So definitely a great place for people to spend some time searching through and scrolling around.
Did you see Sarah's question? Is there any info on sextortion, which apparently would be like a more newer trend?
With kids too. High school kids,
yeah.
I've been seeing it too.
Yeah, so as a singular topic, I would say no, but we do definitely have a number of resources in there on a wide variety of internet crimes against children, sexual exploitation of children, and other types of sexual exploitation crimes. So those would be the products that I would really highlight looking at. And even one of our resources that is working on and that topic area is actually only available to law enforcement agencies. It's one of the few things that we don't release on our public website, but there'd be information on our website about how a police department could get a copy. It just has some law enforcement sensitive information in the training program, so that we keep that one back just for the field. But you'd be able to find the basic information about it on our website, and then information on how to order specifically.
Excellent. One of the things I like on the website is, and we'll go into this more about when we talk about collaborative reform and we talk about technical assistance, is the Office of Community Policing does what's called the Collaborative Reform Program. And I guess we should probably explain that, but all of those reports are available online and they're very extensive. We talk like Ferguson, we talk Baltimore, we talk Pasco, Washington, places like this. And you can really learn from reading those very thorough and detailed reports. So can you tell us a little bit about the collaborative reform process and how it can benefit agencies that may need to go through some organizational transformation or some change?
Sure. So time has no meaning to me now after 2 years of the pandemic. So I think we're going back about 6 years now, Chris, that collaborative reform was launched, and it was a way to do, I guess, a partnership around technical assistance for transformation. We can work alongside an agency to conduct a review and build recommendations around things that can be improved, either in specific topic areas, like maybe around recruitment, or maybe around how certain types of investigations are handled, or even just broader organizational transformation for a police department to help it better organize itself and better respond to community needs. So you named some of the cities that were some of the earlier sites that participated in collaborative reform. Yep, that you worked on. And yeah, we did make their big assessment reports public, because I think, some agencies might come asking for assistance and be able to get involved in a project like collaborative reform. But a lot of the challenges that they're facing, or that things are looking for recommendations on how to help improve things they know are wrong or could be better, are common to hundreds, if not thousands, of other departments. So we wanted those reports where people could see, here's an analysis of something that could be improved, and here are recommendations on how to improve it, so that they can learn from what's happening in other departments and be able to see, have access to some of the subject matter experts that really do that kind of deep dive analysis into departments as organizations, and benefit from them themselves. So, could you, for instance, download Pasco's report and say, okay, well, here's my blueprint for my agency. No, it's customized to Pasco, but certainly you could read through their recommendations and be like, oh, 237, 64, and 93 all really sound like they could be talking about us. So let's look at what they said were the recommendations and how maybe we can make them work in our own department. We for the last several years with collaborative reform have been doing very on-demand technical assistance. People can call what we called our CRITAC Center and maybe get training, maybe get a chance to do some peer meetings with chiefs at other agencies with similar issues or similar size or similar communities, or have people help with specific analytic needs. We're going to continue to do that. We're also going to relaunch our organizational assessment programs and also start to do some more after action work of critical incidents. Again, all with the idea of helping the field be more learning organizations. None of it is designed to be, punitive or gotcha. They're not like consent decrees where there's a court order involved. It's meant to be a proactive tool that can basically help organizations be better, because shouldn't we all want to do that? There's no such thing as a perfect police department, but all organizations can be a better police department. So,
well, and this profession is ever changing, as you know, and the cops office has a pretty good pulse on the tempo of things on a national and even an international basis, which is nice to get perspective. And I would call, and when I was there, I would get calls from cops, and it was nice to be able to give and understand like the bigger picture and see what other people are doing, and then if it works great, then implement it in your own agency, right? One of the things that you guys do is the near miss program about the near hit shootings and things like that. Do you have any info on that you could just throw out that it's there, and then if people have those things, they need to try to call and report it so we can collect that data?
Sure. So we actually partnered with the National Policing Institute almost a decade ago now to build a Leo near miss system. I believe its website actually is leonearmiss.org. The idea here is that every day officers have things happen to them on the job that but for they might have been injured, or somebody else in the incident might have been killed or injured, or the car might have been totaled, or all these sorts of things. And we know from other industries that for every tragic or critical incident, there are hundreds and thousands of these near miss incidents that you can actually learn how to better prevent by studying all the near misses. So we wanted the sharing of those sorts of, oh, but I got really lucky stories to be more systematized, and have a place where people can read through reports, make reports of their own. It's completely anonymous, and help their peers across the country or around the world learn from, things that happened when things didn't go wrong. Because obviously we study them when things go horribly wrong, right? Like you wind up with investigations and after actions, things like that. But, when all that happened is that you have that thought of like, man, I got really lucky. How does anybody learn from that? Because it shouldn't be about luck. It should be about having processes, systems, equipment that can help ensure that officers get home at the end of every shift safely. So yeah, Leo Near Miss is another partnership, much like the one with Coffee for the Cop, that started off small and continues to grow, and we're really proud to work with.
You mentioned earlier mental health, and I know I want to talk about that in law enforcement. And my generation, I'm hoping, was the last generation, I don't know if you feel this way, Mike, too, of the suck it up and deal with it generation, right, of officers. When I was a young cop, a lot of bad stuff, and they're just like, deal with it, right? I remember a small girl dying in my arms after I gave her CPR, and then 15 minutes later I'm at a domestic dispute, and they're just like, suck it up, and now I think we're learning more about how to process, trauma, delayed things like that. Can you tell me a bit about the work that the COPS office is moving towards with mental health and officer mental health?
Sure. I'd like to sort of back up a little bit and kind of build on your idea that
Sure.
hopefully this is a changing phenomenon in terms of people wanting to just suck it up and move on. We started with another office of the Justice Department, the Bureau of Justice Assistance, a officer safety and wellness group back in 2013. And in the beginning, all of our work focused on physical safety, how to, get officers to always wear their body armor, wear their seatbelts in their cars, talking about, safe ways to handle incidents and to reduce injuries. Over time, the group would start to move into discussing mental health and resiliency. But really around about 2017, that took off and suddenly became a major focus area. And coincidentally, around that same time, Congress passed Law Enforcement Mental Health and Wellness Act, which we used to create a new grant program, which I'll circle back to in a second. And then shortly after that, BJA also launched a Safe Leo program that really focuses on suicide prevention and education. But I think it's been really interesting to see how there was no interest in discussing issues of wellness and resiliency to then an openness to it. And then that really just took off and has snowballed to now it being one of the major topics of discussion, no matter what the main agenda of any meeting I'm at might be, which is, I think, great to see. And just last week, I was at a meeting on one of BJ's suicide prevention projects, and there was an officer at the meeting who talked about how at their agency, now the problem is getting enough mental health service providers to meet the demand of all of their younger officers who want to take care of their mental health. So hopefully that is the sign that there's a generational shift coming and people are more willing to look after themselves mentally the same way that we expect them to physically. For our program under the Mental Health and Wellness Act program, we really focus on helping agencies build peer support networks. There's other things that we would support around family wellness programs, family readiness programs, things like that, suicide prevention, training and education. But the peer programs are really the key centerpiece of that program. And that really is in recognition of the importance of peers in being that gateway into the world of mental health. That it's really hard for anybody to try and call a mental health professional cold, even if they think they could use one. Like, we're just not trained and educated that way, right? Like, that's not what we do in this country, full stop. But it was clear that cops are willing to talk to other cops, and they want to know that if they're going to be discussing some traumatic experience or trying to come to terms with the cumulative stress of their job, that the person they're talking to understands the job. So there's a lot of opportunity with peer support programs to do that. And we're actually, we've been working with the National Fraternal Order of Police on a peer training program to help, it's called Power and Peers, to help further educate officers so that they can be good peer supports for other officers. And we also have programs that work with small agencies to help them build coalitions of peer support programs, because if you're in an agency with 5 people, you might not want to talk to somebody else in your department, but you might be willing to talk to another officer somewhere in the state. So like one of our current grantees, if you looked on the list of awardees, it's a single sheriff's department, but functionally it's for every agency in the state of Vermont. They're all small agencies, and so they are working together with their League of Cities and Towns to build a peer support program that will support all of their first responders. So we're really excited about that program. It's grown quite a bit in the last 4 years. Interest in it has continued to grow, and I just think that's a wonderful sign that more officers are seeking out these services, and it's becoming more and more an expected part of organizations of if I'm going to work for your agency, how are you going to ensure that I am healthy and resilient throughout my career? So it's great to see the sudden change, but it's been amazing to see how fast it has changed, that we're having the discussions, the depth of the discussions, the level of service that seems to be expected out of younger officers as they come on the job, I think is great.
I really am happy that it's emerging and becoming a front line issue, right? And that it's being embraced by command staff, who are the most part, our age, right? And grew up with the suck it up, mentality. And we realize that that's not the right way to do it. And so the change is being embraced, and I'm really glad to see that. Mike, what are your thoughts?
I wholeheartedly agree. I was a police officer in New Hampshire for 25 years. My sister as well. She's on a peer group that you were talking about, Deb, and still is on it since retiring. And I dealt with a coworker 3 years after I left that committed suicide, and I still have a hard time coming to grips with it. And it was something that I needed to talk about with a lot of people, because it was hard for me to digest. And I think of all the heinous calls that I went to over the course of my 25 years, Chris, the bank robberies and things like that, it's when a child dies in your arms, those are the things that stay with you as much as anything else. And they stay with you for a reason, right? So, those are things that are oftentimes hard to come to grips with. And I think I truly believe, I truly believe that the mentality has started to change with our generation moving forward. And I just hope it continues to grow for sure.
Me too. You talked about like the small sheriff's agency and like the regional programs, and my agency, and I think yours wasn't real big either. We had 100 guys, and we started peer support, I don't know, 8 years ago maybe, and it slowly took off, and now it's gigantic. And in our agency in Hawthorne PD, and Chief Mike Ishii and former Chief Bob Fager are the ones who really embraced that. And we've seen so many agencies go to the peer support type of model and take away the stigma of mental health, which is great. And then so guys aren't having kids die on their arm and then going on a domestic dispute 10 minutes later. They're understanding that has trauma and impact, and it's nice to know that it's being addressed at the national level and that there is help for smaller agencies.
For sure.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a challenge currently and going forward is going to be about the access to mental health professionals. I mean, there have long been concerns about ensuring that you can find professionals that understand the job and understand trauma, because just because somebody is a psychologist doesn't mean they're expert in every aspect of it. But we're seeing, there's challenging demands on the mental health professions now just in this country, period, let alone to be talking about the specialty experience, knowledge, exposure that you would want to work with law enforcement professionals. And I think peer support programs can't be the end, but they're such a valuable entry point to mental health support and to helping people be resilient. And, so having programs that are able to then also, be supported by professionals is a great force multiplier, really, to help officers on the job, so that you don't have to feel like, oh, but I don't think my problem is big enough. You can always talk to a peer, even if you think it's small. And if it is a really big problem, they're going to have the training and the knowledge to be able to refer you to professional help beyond what they can do. So it's great in terms of helping eliminate stigma, making it more approachable, and just being a force multiplier for the mental health profession, as clearly they need to build their ranks as well. I think it's also an excellent way for retirees to stay connected to the field and to officers as well. Like there's no reason why your peer has to be your exact colleague. It could be somebody who was in the job 10 and 20 years ago, but they still know what it's like. So, and that's the important thing if they're willing to listen.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it is a good point. Deb, I have just real quick is like, I think of, I think of our tactical team responding to like a SWAT call out and them having, an ER surgeon on staff that was like the same person every time, because he knew how to deal with a law enforcement event. To think maybe that as part of peer support programs, do they maybe have like an approved, I don't want to say approved, but a certain person that is part of that, kind of knows the law enforcement profession or has worked with them in the past, so that I know if I would feel really comfortable if the person I was talking to about my event, I knew had talked to Chris Cognac before and Chris had got good results. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Just recently I had a conversation with a deputy chief who that's exactly what the department was doing. They have a program that will pay the co-pays to see a mental health professional. No questions asked. You just have to bring in the receipt. They pay it. But what they have been able to do through that program is build up their own referral list of people come back and officers say, Dr. So-and-so, counselor so-and-so was really great, really got what we do. And then the police department will, reach out to them and say, want to come and do some ride-alongs? Want to meet some other folks? Want to learn more about what we do? One of our officers said you were great. And they've now managed to build up a larger network of service providers so that when somebody is struggling or wants to talk to somebody, here's the list of, hey, some of your peers have found these people helpful. The FOP is also working together to put together a national provider directory where people have been, had experience working with police departments. Specifically, I think IACP has their psych services department or division that also does the same thing. But I think even for smaller departments where they might not know anybody, if there are mental health professionals in the area, like reach out, see if they're interested, see if this is a line of work they'd like to be in. I think of chaplaincy programs the same way. I think, that's a lot of chaplaincy programs are started by simply reaching out to the faith leaders in the community and seeing if they're interested in being part of a police chaplaincy program, and then introducing them to the world of policing. And chaplains themselves can be part of these networks of wellness support as well. So they're another piece of that puzzle. But I think there's probably more that the law enforcement community can do to reach out to the mental health professionals to see if they're interested in working in the space, because they might be and just don't know how to approach a police department and say, how can I help? But if offered the chance, might be very much interested in learning more about the job and how they can help support their local departments.
Does the COPS office have any guidelines or any like pamphlets, things like that on how to start a chaplaincy or best practices? Do you know?
Well, we have quite a few things that would highlight some of the best practices. We did a series of reports to Congress for the Law Enforcement Mental Health and Wellness Act. 2 of them involve recommendations that of like key considerations for agencies or for state or federal legislation, just depends on which one you're looking at. So they're great to look at for ideas. We also have done work with IACP fairly recently, have a whole bunch of resources that were developed around family wellness and suicide prevention. We do have a publication out with the FOP that relates to the helping identify and vet providers in your local areas. I think the Power and Peers training should be, we're getting ready to pilot test it now, so it should be released in 2023 across the country. And I think just we've had this officer safety and wellness group that over the last 5 years has had numerous meetings where promising practices or things that agencies have found work for them are discussed and described, and we have a series of reports for that group in our library. So I think looking at anything that with wellness as a keyword on our website is going to turn up a lot of our resources in this area.
So search the keyword wellness on the COPS website to get things. Okay. Websites. Speaking of websites, you had mentioned websites, leonearmiss.org. Could you highlight those websites again, and maybe Mike is able to put them on here, or you can.
Yeah, go ahead.
That way people can just
it's yes, they are .org. So LEO near miss, all is one word. I always think it looks like Leon ear miss.
Whatever works.
Exactly. That is the site where you can enter near miss stories or read about others. All of our we call it LIMWA in our program, for Law Enforcement Mental Health and Wellness Act. It has its own page on our website. All of our wellness resources they all will include that word, so they easily pop when you look in our resource center. Thanks, Mike, that's the site. And yeah, I like I said, the site is a lot of layers deep, but it's worth spending some time and clicking around. We do spend a lot of time making sure that if there's something you find something you like, and it will help you connect to other things that are similar. So our resource center in particular tries to be helpful in getting you to find specifics, and not have to spend a lot of time guessing at what might be a key search term.
Outstanding. Now, you mentioned IACP. So IACP is the International Association of Chiefs of Police Conference, which will be in about 2 weeks, right? In Dallas?
Yeah.
And the Office of Community Policing will have a booth there, correct?
Correct.
We will tell a story. We'll tell a story about the IACP booth in San Diego, which is where Coffee with the Cop started. But why don't you tell everybody what the resources that you guys will have at IACP, and maybe they can tell anybody at their agency that's attending, their command staff, things like that, to come to you guys.
Sure. So yeah, we will have a booth that will be filled with books, this old-fashioned technology made of paper. But we bring along copies of all of our new releases, as well as some of our best sellers, although they're free, most popular pubs every year. We always bring along a handful of staff that are actually out of our grant and programmatic policy support divisions, and they love to talk to people. They all know the library inside and out. So even if you don't see something on the table that meets your needs, stopping one of them and saying, hey, do you guys have anything on, whatever it is that you're interested in, they're going to know. They're going to be able to help you find it, order it, download it, whatever makes the most sense for you. They'll have information on all of our multimedia outreach tools. They'll have information on our training portal, and they're all the chatty people in the office who will be very excited to see people. So definitely stop by if you're at the conference. And then we also have probably about a half a dozen sessions throughout the agenda, highlighting some of our projects and grantees work and partners work over the last year. So I think, I believe we'll have about 10 staff on the ground at IACP. I'll be there, our acting director will be there. Like I said, another 8-ish so staff. We all love to talk to the field. That's what helps us be good at our jobs. So just keep an eye out for us.
Oh, we'll definitely be visiting you. Any questions on that, Mike?
I don't have any questions. I know I'm going to be there. I know we're going to be there because Coffee with the Cop and CARFAX for Police are going to be at a booth as well. So we're going to all hook up at one of our events we're having Saturday night. So that's going to be a fun time.
Great.
Absolutely. So we'll like wind down here and we'll talk about Coffee with a Cop Day and the story of how Coffee with the Cop started with a crazy phone call. And this can serve as an inspiration for any of you who have an idea that you think will work and how to make it go. So why don't you tell the phone call story?
Sure. It was actually an email, but same principle.
Okay, my bad.
So we had started our electronic monthly newsletter, The Dispatch, and we created an email address for it so that people could email us and say, can I please subscribe? And occasionally we would get all sorts of other spam email into that inbox. And I was our editor-in-chief at the time and had to once a week go through and clear out all of the junk. looking for people to subscribe. And one day there's a email, and it's from a guy who says, "Hi, I'm Sergeant Chris Cognac. I've had a television show on the Food Network, but I'm also a police officer, and I have this great idea for a program called Coffee with a Cop." And I sat there for a minute trying to decide if this was also spam, because who is a cop and also has a show on the Food Network? But Google said that he was real, so I emailed him back, and here we are. So that's what happens at our office. If you send us emails to our general directories with ideas or questions, actual people will respond to you. They might be a little skeptical, as I was at first, but Chris indeed did have a really good idea, and he had previously been on the Food Network, so he was not making that up.
It's been amazing, because when you take an idea that's out of the box, right? I mean, because we all do the same things for, and our generation, same thing for 40 years, right? When you think outside of the box, and then you have somebody else that agrees with you, like the COPS office, they can help you to fund some of these things if the grants get approved, and really help develop a program and find out if a program will work. And so now here we are, what are we, 11 years? What is it? Yeah, 11 years later, right?
Yeah.
We are, without a doubt, the largest community policing program on the planet. I mean, I've got the United Arab Emirates and the Congo getting ready to start Coffee with a Cop, and they'll be country number 33 and 34. And so it's amazing when an idea works, right? It doesn't matter the language or anything, it's just simple. And the COPS office can help you take your idea, your program, and help it to work, or at least help guide you in the right direction. And all I can say is, from somebody who wrote an email saying, "I've got this wacky idea," is go for it, right? You never know what it's going to be. I mean, like, did you or I ever think that it would be this gigantic?
No. It's funny, we've worked with Coffee with a Cop in a couple different ways. Like in the first instance, we just gave you space in our newsletter to talk about the success of the very first Coffee with a Cop event that Hawthorne held, which then generated other people being interested in, like, how can I do this? After, I don't know, maybe it was a year later or whatever, that you guys applied for the grant to create the training curricula that is still the basis of what you do today. And then when you wanted to start the National Coffee with a Cop Day, we, signed an MOU to help with promotion, and we still help promote the event every year today. So there's lots of different ways that we help advance successes at the local level out to the field, and I think this is a program that has benefited from a lot of our different outreach efforts, but they're all examples of what any department with a great idea could potentially do. And I think it's just it's great because it's simple. It doesn't require a lot of specialized knowledge, equipment. It's manageable within the time that people have, and it's important. So there's no excuses. Everybody should do this.
We're moving on. October 5th will be the 7th Coffee with a Cop Day. Obviously, we didn't have 2 of them during the pandemic, but I remember the first time we had Coffee with a Cop Day, and you told me a story about refreshing Twitter and seeing the impact that it was making. I thought that was a great story, and we use that now. And if you could tell it how, like, community policing takes over social media that day.
Yeah, our comms director and I were just sitting on our Twitter feeds watching for posts with the hashtag, and Twitter would occasionally say what's trending now, and so we were watching some of the analytics, and at one point during that day we were in the top 10 hashtag trends for the day, and like the 2 of us are jumping up and down and screaming in the office, and everybody else is wondering what's wrong with us. But then I'm texting Chris going, oh my gosh. It was really neat to see that we try really hard, not just to build relationships with law enforcement leaders, but with law enforcement officers, and social media has been a great way for us to do that. And it was really great to see that network that we've worked to build. I think at the time we had 14,000 followers on Twitter, and to be able to be pushing out information about Coffee with a Cop Day and then actually being a part of seeing its presence and getting to be a top 10 trend was really incredible. And, you know, arguably was not a huge lift for us to do, but the impact is important and we're really proud of it.
It's been great. And I like that day because community policing and positive police media takes over that day. And it's nice to see the things coming through the feed under the hashtag Coffee with a Cop Day. And this year will also be Coffee with a Cop Day 22 or 2022. So we get the right, so we can track the years. But it's great to see that. And you get amazing ideas from these people's pictures that come through. And you see the positive effect that community policing has around the world. And that's what's so special about this day. This is our day, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's the community's day.
I think one of my favorites, I was going to say one of my favorites was an agency where a bunch of community members had seen that it was National Coffee Cop Day, and they took boxes of coffee to their local police department. And then the police department tweeted about it because they were so tickled and wound up having impromptu conversations in their, you know, HQ lobby with the people that had come by to bring coffee for the cops. So Coffee with a Cop and Coffee for a Cop are maybe not the same thing, but it worked out in that particular instance.
It's all about creating that space for communication, right? And to get to know somebody. And that's how it works. It's no agenda, no speeches. You just sit down and you get to know somebody. And that's been the beauty of what this program is. And I'm excited about this Wednesday. I know the city that I live in, which is Claremont, Florida, is having 3 events, morning, afternoon, and evening. And I'll post some stuff from there. So I'm asking everybody, please, you know, hashtag the selfies, all that stuff, so we can all see from the stuff coming from around the world. And I like it when it comes now, as we're bigger, from the smaller countries to see how things do. Like we got one from India last year, which was amazing. Big Coffee with a Cop banner and Indian police, and then all of the people in back. It was really cool. And so that brings us all together as police officers on that one day too, right? Around the world. And I CARFAX has been amazing. You guys, like, we could not do this without CARFAX and the cops office. Just the two agencies here are responsible for this amazing program that now is a global thing. And I wanted to thank both of you guys and your respective agencies for helping us to keep this alive. And I want to thank everybody that's on this watching, because you participate in it. And it's a great thing, and it feels good. And I just wanted to say thanks to all of you guys. We'll kind of wrap this up, I guess, Mike. We're pushing an hour here. Is there anything that you want to say about the cops office that we haven't gotten to? Any tidbits of information, things like that you want to throw out? You do that contest, the community policing photo contest. This was a cute one this month. It was the guy in a pink police uniform for breast cancer awareness.
Yes, every year we have a community policing in action photo contest. I believe it's normally open in the October-ish timeframe. October, November tends to be when we open for submissions, and we get 12 winners a year. They're each featured each month with a story in our newsletter and as a banner across our website. And oh my gosh, the photos have gotten to be so amazing. Initially we started off with 1 winner, and then I think there was a year where we're like, no, we can't pick just one, so that's when we went to 12
categories.
You know, we probably could now do 52 winners and have a photo a week, but the pictures are amazing, and I love that they all get a feature story in our newsletter so that people can learn the story behind them. But yeah, they're fantastic. I love flipping through them. I don't sit on the selection board for the winner because I would be no help in picking a winner.
Where can people send their photos in? Do you have by chance the email or anything offhand?
I don't know that it's open at the moment, but definitely it's worth following us on Twitter or Facebook, because we always promote as soon as that contest opens. And I believe I think we're Cops Office on both platforms. I might have should have looked at that before this podcast started.
And we just started we finally got our @CoffeeWithACop Instagram, it took us years to get that, fighting through Instagram. So yeah, we now, everybody, are @CoffeeWithACop on Instagram. So take those pictures, tag things, and see those pictures might come out, and maybe you'll win the contest.
Right.
Yeah. And does anybody have any questions of Debbie while we're here? Mike, you got anything else?
I don't. I think we could probably do another hour with Debbie. So we're gonna have to look at where we're gonna go in 2023, because we have people lined up. But you know what? And geez, we're closing in on an hour, so I hate to ask a question, Deb. But you know, one of the things I've been seeing is I have a really good friend that works for NYPD, and in New York State, one of the big trending crimes right now, as everybody knows, is catalytic converter theft. And I know that a lot of the big initiatives right now are to get out into the community and use community partnerships with automotive repairs, either chain automotive repair places or mom and pop shops locally, to do marketing campaigns for the community, so that if this happens, people can at least have some recourse and things like that. I was wondering if that's been brought to the attention of the cops office, because that is really community involvement at its finest. I mean, these guys are getting out and running free programs on Saturdays with the law enforcement that are actually marking people's vehicles in conjunction with a Monroe or a Midas or a place like that.
That's cool.
That is a really great program. And yeah, I think those are the sorts of things that we do like to try and highlight. And it's funny because in some respects, it's like everything old is new again. We have these series of publications called the Pop Guides that we produced through the 90s and early 2000s. I think it's over 100 of them on different topics, but one of my very favorite titled ones was Thefts of and from Vehicles from Residential Streets and Driveways, which was different than our Pop Guide on thefts of and from vehicles in public parking facilities. But a lot of the ideas that were generated for those two guides in particular would still apply today to this iteration of theft from vehicles, right? Like, the parts, the technology might change, but a lot of the things that departments can use to help community members protect their belongings, protect their vehicles, working with the other industries and professions on marketing education still apply. So sometimes it's even worth digging into the Wayback Machine on a problem, because there might have been something very similar in the past and the solutions then are still useful today.
We have a question from Natalie. What are the volunteer opportunities for citizens to support and partner with cops or community policing?
I think that it's actually a great question, because community policing doesn't work if the community is not involved. We've have used for years and different things that, community policing is not something you do to people, it's with people. So it's really important that community members find ways to get involved with their police departments, and maybe that's by participating in their neighborhood meetings that departments run. They happen in my neighborhood. Sadly, I never go to them, but they're on opposite something else I'm doing when my police department has them. But I know a lot of my neighbors do go, and they really do chat with the officers that come to them about their concerns in the community and their ideas for ways to make our community safer. There might a lot of agencies run citizen police academies, and that's a great way to get people involved in the department and understanding what policing is. Most people in this country, what they understand about the job, they learned watching TV. And yes. I know that if you say that to a surgeon, that everything you know about medicine, you learned watching a medical show, they will laugh hysterically. And, we should understand that the same is true for policing as well. So finding, when there are programs that departments run that can bring the community in and give them a chance to not only meet officers, but provide a role for citizens to help co-produce public safety, they're really important. And we offer a lot of examples of great ways that agencies have done that over the years. And if your local department isn't doing that, tell them you want it.
Ask
You
them.
know, that at the end of the day, right, exactly. I have this idea, I can help you get it off the ground. Because at the end of the day, you know, the police department works for the citizens of that community. And if people want to be a part of making their communities safe and healthy, they should have that opportunity, and they should be able to help create the programs that they want to do the things that they think they need. So
And that's the beauty of Coffee with a Cop, is you can go and talk to officers, and if you have those questions, you can form a partnership right there. I've seen it done a zillion times. People are like, I have this stuff I can help you with, and then the police are like, hey, we need help doing this, and so there you go. You know, it worked out great. If people want to write for the Dispatch, how would they go about that, writing articles? And then I've written a bunch, and it's a lot of great. If you have expertise in something or a good idea, you can write a small article and submit it. So what would they do for that?
So Mike put the link in the chat for the Dispatch
Got it.
newsletter. I believe it has a about us or editorial information page in it somewhere. They've redesigned it probably 6 times since I was its editor. But it does still have its email address, the same email address that you wrote to all those years ago, Chris. And they're always open to ideas. The editorial board will always get back to people. We also, sometimes people have an idea, but they know they're not a writer. We have staff writers as well. So if people have great ideas, but not the, you know, they've never taken a journalism class, they don't have to worry about that. They should still share their ideas, because we have people that will take it and make it fit and make it work.
And they do, and they've helped me, which has been nice. So I'll end this on a lighter note once we're done. Mike, do you have any more questions for Deborah?
No, I think I'm good. I think about time to wrap it, I think.
Okay, here's my question. You are from Philadelphia. Give me your top 3 cheesesteaks.
Oh, geez.
I told you it was going to be fun.
Food.
You know, I'm partial to Jim's. Probably
I like
over
Jim's.
any of the ones. So
Jim's on 4th and Passayunk.
yes, exactly. Very good.
I know that. That's from the Food Network.
I'm impressed. But no, I'd have to put some more thought into 2 and 3. So anybody's headed to Philly, Jim's, 4th and Passayunk.
Jim's is great. Jim's is chopped. I also like Steve's Prince of Steaks because it's not chopped and they have really good rolls. So Steve's Prince of Steak and Jim's. Is that going to be the call?
I'll let you go with that one. I prefer the chopstick.
Yeah, I get it. It's a personal preference. Whiz wit, right?
It's all
Our
about being on a
chief-
contract and roll.
We were at the IACP in
Oh,
Philly.
let's see,
and Chief Easton-
Delisandro's. There's a
Ooh.
vote for Delisandro's in the chat. That is a good one.
Yes.
Oh,
I would give them
see?
serious consideration.
Chief Easton just came in and we ordered at Steve's Prince of Steaks in Philadelphia, and he tried to learn how to order and he couldn't just say whiz wit. And I'm like, just say 2 words, and he couldn't do it, and it was hilarious. So I just wanted to end that on a fun note. I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate all the work and partnership we've had over the last 11 years. I can't stress enough the importance of the Office of Community Policing and the expertise that they have there. Working in that office, I couldn't believe the amount of PhDs that were in there. You know, I mean, there are some
I'm not one of them.
people. But thank you so much. Give everybody our best. We hope to see a lot of you folks here at the IACP conference at either the CARFAX booth for Coffee with a Cop or the Office of Community Policing booth.
Awesome.
Mike?
Thanks for having me, Chris.
Thanks for
Thank you
being
to
on.
everybody.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And we'll wrap it up. The recording will be made available to everybody. Maybe we can even share it on the cops page or make it part of the dispatch, the link to it. That would be really cool. So we can talk about it offline, but yeah, we'll share that with you, and I'll see you guys soon because I'll see you all in Dallas.
All right, everybody have a great Coffee with a Cop day. We will put out the info for the next podcast after IACP. And we're probably going to be leaning towards university community policing issues. It's looking like we're going to have Robbie Williams, my old partner, who is now the chief of police of Loyola Marymount University, talking about community policing in a university setting. So that's most likely up next.
Awesome.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks, Deb. I appreciate it. Cheers.
Bye.